How many, how many participants should be there? Only 16 now. Wow. But they will miss part. Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. I think we will start now. Most of them are still joining, I suppose. Can you hear me, everybody? Hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Your name?
Yeah, I'm Sanjeev here. I'm Sanjeev.
Sanjeev, okay. Are you a civil engineer or Sanjeev? Hello.
Hello, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. Sanjeev, are you a civil
Yeah,
engineer?
sir. I'm Sanjeev from IESL Secretariat. I contact you.
Okay, right.
We can hear you. We can start now.
We start now. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
Now today's lecture is on global environment issues. In fact, it's our planet, our health. That is the theme of the lecture. Now, the first slide is just prepared to show that we need to hand over the Earth's environment to the next generation in the same way that we enjoyed the planet's environment. So what are the biggest environmental problems affecting the Earth, the global community? The 15 biggest environmental problems you can list just like this. Global warming, we all know that it is due to the greenhouse gas emission, CO2 increase, carbon dioxide concentration. Then fossil fuel dependency. I think our industrial revolution and most of the 150 years of development based on fossil fuel energy, use of energy, burning fossil fuels. So that is when we realize that is going to harm the Earth's environment, it was too late, I think, I suppose. So fossil fuel dependency is now being addressed by various instruments and mechanisms. One of the mechanisms that they apply is carbon taxing system. Countries there is a cost of emission. So that emission has to be taxed. So now there are 27 countries implementing this carbon taxing system. Number 3 is food waste. Food waste is a real environmental hazard. It's emanate methane, greenhouse gas, and it also pollute environment and water. Then biodiversity loss. Biodiversity loss is the cause for climate change. And also it is impacted due to exploitation and reclamation of the habitat, reclamation of the lands, and it's also caused habitat loss. Then plastic pollution. Now we thought in the 70s or 80s, I think, when we first saw the plastic cup or plastic box, it was a luxury for us. Then they realized that overproduction of plastic has caused many environmental issues. we need to recycle plastic or completely switch to our home habits, where we use only paper bags in the 60s, and also gunny bags, like cloth bags. It may reach 600 tons per year by 2040. That is how they have calculated the plastic amount of plastic that will be released to the environment will be nearly 600 tons. 600, yeah. Metric tons, I mean. Deforestation is the next hazard. It is land alienation and exploitation, expansion of agriculture. Air pollution. Have you noticed have you come across these figures? 4.2 to 7 million die each year due to air pollution. Those who are vulnerable and susceptible population, they undergo hardships. Number 8 is melting ice caps and sea level rise. Sea level rise has been calculated as 3.2 millimeter per year globally. If the entire Greenland ice sheet melts, sea level would rise by 6 meters. People in coastal areas will be affected due to severe flooding. Ocean acidification. You know that ocean absorbs 30% of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere because it is continuously aerated due to waves. So during that wave action, this air is dissolved in the sea, causing pH rise in the sea. Carbon dioxide, when it is dissolved in the water, it forms HOC acid, hydrogen plus and CO minus ions. Bleaching of coral reefs, damage coral reef and damage. Risk. There is a risk of coral reefs completely wipe out by 2050. Risk of completely wipe out. Agriculture is another environmental issue because it uses land, water, and environment. Use of fertilizer, CH3 emission, unsustainable development, agriculture with high carbon and water footprint. Carbon and water footprint, I need to explain to you later. How many of you are familiar with these terms? Water and food insecurity. So the global warming and carbon dioxide emission can impact on water and food security. By 2025, 2/3 of the world's population may face water shortage. Loss of topsoil due to high erosion. Food and water insecurity. Water is a diminishing resource. Because water, now when the population grows, the per capita water availability reduces. Now each person has, say, now in Sri Lanka, we receive 2000 millimeters of rainfall. So each person has more than 2000 cubic meters of water per year. But it will go down annually due to population increase. So that is why I call it diminishing resource. So the value of water is reducing because cost of treatment is high. Then cost of challenges to water and food security. We have to eternally face those challenges due to these global environment issues. Fast fashion textiles also a major contributor to climate change and global warming, environmental pollution, water, land, and air pollution. Overfishing life, there's a thing called life below water, marine pollution. Cobalt mining is another environmental damaging activity. There's a big demand for, electric vehicle batteries. To manufacture batteries, you need cobalt. So in your day-to-day life, what actions do you take to protect the planet? That is the question, but I don't get the answers now. But you can think about it. The alarming issues due to those 15 global issues, 15 alarming environmental issues, health of the planet is impacted. Depletion of ozone layer, greenhouse gas emission, carbon dioxide level going up every year, and deforestation, climate change, frequent. HMD means hydrometeorological disasters. What are the hydrometeorological disasters? They are floods, droughts, landslides, and other something like salinity intrusion is also one of those. So depletion of resources, water and air pollution, exploitation, desertification, food waste, acid rain, biodiversity loss. All those are coupled together in these hazardous activities. Global temperature rose about 1.8 Fahrenheit, 1 degree centigrade from 1901 to 2022. That is during industrial revolution, major contribution of greenhouse gas emission to the atmosphere. Then sea level rise has accelerated from 1.7 millimeter per year to throughout most of the 20th century to 3.2 millimeter per year since 1993. Glaciers are shrinking. The average thickness of 30 well-studied glaciers has decreased more than 60 feet since 1980. So when you think about these things, it's unbelievably dangerous and alarming. The area covered by sea ice means the Arctic area, end of summer has shrunk by about 40% since 1970. Each summer, it goes down by 40%, that is more than before. The amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has risen by 25% since 1958 and about 40% since Industrial Revolution. Currently, it is 402, stays at 424 ppm. It has been found that if it goes to 450, it will be a disaster for vulnerable population, where those people who are affected with respiratory disease. Snow is melting earlier than long-term averages. Then extinct of species, over 40,000 has gone missing since 1901. Critical action by human affecting the planet. What are those critical actions? Since 1800s. That's why past 200 years, 225 years was critical for the planet's health. Human activities have been the main driver of climate change. Primarily burning of fossils, fuels like coal, gas. Industrial and domestic pollution, plastic pollution, fossil fuel burning, built environment. What is built environment? Built environment is you cover the environment with concrete or asphalt. You get the point? No. We have been covering our natural environment with concrete and asphalt. So that is called built environment. Deforestation, exploitation of the resource, temperature rise, loss of biodiversity, impact on marine environment, communicable diseases, desertification, and sea level rise. That is, those are the list of things affecting the environment. So water is the first casualty of climate change. Now we would have seen, just take Sri Lankan climate. Now in the past 5 years, we have seen very, I think, strange phenomena of unusual rain, out of season weather patterns. So various things you can always think about. Then the number 2 is depletion of biodiversity and ecosystem services. Now, ecosystems help to cool down them. But if you destroy ecosystems, I hope you are familiar with these terms, because most of the other disciplines like electronic, telecommunication, electrical, mechanical, or the engineers in those fields, in fact, they need to learn these 2 subjects, environment and climate change. Then to become smart engineers, you need to learn the current trend in global environment and climate change. Excessive logging, expansion of agriculture also contribute global warming. Plastic production has reached 400 million tons. Hydrometeorology does floods, storms, droughts, and landslide caused by displacements, poverty, property damage, poverty, loss of livelihood, destruction, and loss of lives. So the number of people affected is increasing every year, because we get intensified action by weather and HMDs. Atmospheric disturbance is very prominent for the countries along the equator. It has been just experienced by the scientists. Climate and weather. I ask a simple question. How many of you can answer that? If somebody asks, what is climate and what is weather? Can you respond? Is there anybody who is smart enough to answer the question? Climate is what you expect. Weather is what you get. That is a simple answer to the layman who doesn't know hydrology or global warming or greenhouse gas emissions. So now just a simple example. You go to Norelia to expect blue skies and cool climate. But when you go there, it starts raining. So that is weather. But the usual climate is not there because it has been interrupted. Weather refers to the atmospheric condition in a short, specific area and time. is short-term change in atmospheric conditions. Temperature, humidity, precipitation are the three key dimensions of the weather. They are the indicators of weather. Weather is determined by these three indicators. Climate refers to the typical weather in a region for a long period of time. Now, we expect a weather in Colombo that is January, February, dry months. That is what we expect. But this year, during the January, it rained the whole month in Colombo. No explanation. We cannot give any explanation, but the only explanation is global warming, pumping too much water from the sea, then it falls down as rain. More than expected amount of rain occurs. While climate varies with latitude and longitude, it also varies with elevation. Latitude and longitude. I think you are familiar with those terms. I need not explain. It also varies with elevation. At higher elevations, temperatures are cooler. Temperatures are cooler and precipitation is usually greater. Do you know that every 100-meter we rise, we climb, every 100-meter, 1 degree of 1 degree centigrade lower than the base temperature. That is how. Now, when you climb to Nuvareli, 1863 meters above mean sea level, so 18 degrees lower than Colombo. Nuvareli temperature is most of the time 18 degrees lower than Colombo. Is much lower than Colombo. Climate research is done using weather data. Climate and weather are two different things, but climate research is done using weather data. Change of weather data is the basis for climate change determinations. What are the international initiatives to combat climate change? These are the list of international initiatives to combat climate change. Established a United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. That is called UNFCCC. It has a big fund. It may use that fund to various, especially poor countries. Now, do you know that poor countries exploit environment more? Because they don't have financial resources or any other income. So they depend on exploitation of the environment. That is another. Poverty is a main cause of environmental degradation. So those are the points that you need to remember. Then UNFCCC has called the nations, called the countries of a meeting which is called Countries of Partners. Annually they meet and discuss actions to be taken at the summit on the restoration of the health of the planet. Then there is an international carbon action partnership, carbon trading. Carbon trading is also a subject that you have to learn, but it is within this lecture. I am not going to touch it because it's a bit complex. Because now it's simply if you explain, now Sri Lanka without burning fossil fuel, Sri Lanka can grow forest and have a plus account on carbon. Then you can trade that account to other countries who are burning fossil fuel and emitting carbon dioxide. That is something simply explained. The Paris Agreement, Accord de Paris, 2015, commitment from all countries to reduce their emissions and work together to adapt to the impact of climate change, and calls on countries to strengthen their commitments over time. So those are the global agreements. During the Paris Agreement in 2015, global community agreed to pursue efforts to limit temperature increase to 1.5 centigrade above pre-industrial level. That means by 2050, you need to maintain 1.5 centigrade increase without letting it go beyond 2. If it goes beyond 2, that will be a disaster, because it will have major impact on the weather and the climate. There is a Sustainable Development Goal 13 on climate action that says take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. So the global community has agreed to implement SDG Goal 13 and implement the targets of SDG 13 and achieve the goal 13. Now, there is a note. Countries periodically report on the progress of nationally determined contributions and on the climate action plan to cut emission and adapt to climate impacts. Each party to the Paris Agreement must establish an nationally determined contribution and update it every 5 years. Now, Sri Lanka is reporting to this convention on the action taken to protect climate change. Now, say we try to expand forest cover, then we control emission by vehicles, then we try to stop plastic pollution. Then there was a Central Environment Authority gazetted notification to ban polythene of certain grade because that is harmful. It takes 400 years to degrade polythene or plastic. Conference of Parties started 30 years ago. So that is out of that 1932 convention, Rio de Janeiro. COP is a series of UN climate change conferences, which have been running since 1995, focused on broad issues such as war, genocide, terrorism, human rights, poverty, famine, globalization, world trade, nuclear proliferation, and global warming, as well as more specific events such as COVID-19 and economic recovery. That was in 2022. The Conference of the Parties was established by the convention as its main decision-making body of the UNFCCC. Now, recent COPs, COP28 held in Dubai, 28 years, in 2023. COP29 was held in Azerbaijan. COP30 will be held in Belém, Brazil, in November 2023. COP28 closed with an agreement that signals the beginning of the end of fossil fuel era by laying the grounds for swift and equitable transition underpinned by deep commitment for fossil fuel into petrol, into use of petrol. Instruments for combating climate change. Now, we also report nationally determined contribution. It's a climate action plan to cut emission and adapt to climate impacts. Each party to the Paris Agreement must establish and update and NDC every 5 years. You can go to the website and go to the Ministry of Environment and download NDC. And there is a very good document prepared for 10 years. So you can check and see what actions will be being taken by the government and the Ministry of Environment with the other industrial partners. Then there is called NAP, is National Adaptation Plan. Sorry, that is National Action Plan for Climate Change. That is also you can download. How many of you are interested in these subjects? Because these are not limited to civil law, water engineers, right? Environment engineers. Now, we passed out as civil engineer, but we become water engineer, then we become environment, then we become climate change experts. That is how it goes. But others also must take interest of these subjects, and they day-to-day life they must use. They would promote the actions against climate impacts. Adaptation means anticipate. Now there are two terminology used by climate action. Can you by heart learn these two actions? Adaptation, mitigation. What is adaptation? Adaptation is that we are subjected to climate change. So we anticipate what going to happen in the environment and also the adverse effects of climate change, and taking appropriate action to prevent or minimize the damage they can cause, or taking advantage of opportunities that may arise. But if the advantages are also damaging the, I don't think there are advantages to find out now. Adaptation doesn't mean that you switch on your air conditioner and live happily in the bedroom or in the car. You got the point? Can you respond somebody? Hello? Are you there? Hello? Nobody's responding to my calls.
Yes, sir, we are here.
Yeah. Now, adaptation, you need to learn from the documents. Huh? That is to prevent or minimize the damage, not putting an air conditioner and live in a room. Then mitigation. Mitigation means making the impacts of climate change less severe by preventing or reducing the emission of greenhouse gas. So we switch to transform everything into green economy. Make it green. That we transform from our practices, industrial, agricultural, transportation, manufacturing, agriculture, all those practices we need to transform, reform to meet the global environmental challenges. So increase forest cover, manage waste, and stop exploitation of natural resource base. How do we say now we produce rice, we harvest, we grow paddy, we use land about 800,000 hectares of land we are using for paddy. So just think about, nobody has come out with a research or improvement to increase yield of paddy and save water and save land. And also save efforts of the people, and they contribute to other areas of economic growth. So the key action that we can expect is, as we all know, that the water, environment, and the resource base has reduced and degraded. Now we need to restore. That is why action has to be restoration of the environment, biodiversity and natural resource base. Engineer is the key person who is in the center of all this new development, based on his approach, change approach, not we follow the same old fashion of engineering. So we go through these subjects: water resources, drinking water, environment, water and wastewater treatment, climate change. So engineers are well aware of these subjects more than the other professions. Now the knowledge is centered among engineers, rather than for each subject you need another expert. COP29 Dubai key takeaway was to increase finance to climate change, adaptation and mitigation. The cost has been calculated as trillion per year, 1 trillion per year. Other important points from COP29 include focus on adaptation, increase emphasis on providing funding for vulnerable countries to adapt to climate change. Now, we depend on tourism. Tourists come here to appreciate the environment and enjoy the clean air and clean water and environment, clean beaches. So we need to maintain. On the other hand, high visitation also contribute to environmental pollution. So there are two-way action that we need to consider, because we also get benefited. We also has a cost of maintaining the resource base and also natural environment. So that is how you need to manage the tourism as a contributor to restoration of the environment. We take tourism as a challenge to restore the environment. Then carbon market development. That I mentioned earlier, that advancement in carbon market frameworks to create high integrity system for emission trading. But I don't subscribe to this, because we allow some other countries to burn fossil fuels and we grow forest and absorb that carbon. That is, I think everybody should stop burning fossil fuel. And now, I think our invention, scientific development, human civilization, all based on fossil fuel. But those days it was a luxury. But after 150 years, we have realized that it is. Please go lecture. Sorry. Carbon market development. Those are the mechanisms that you need to learn if you are interested in these subjects. Just I mentioned here so that you can pursue knowledge in your own time And also when you answer the questions, you must also have some background knowledge on these subjects. And also answer clearly and in simple language, but use terminology, correct terminology. I have noticed in previous occasions that most of them are very poor in terminology. They don't use these terms. At least if you know these terms, then you are smarter. Like adaptation, mitigation, carbon market, NDNCs, those are the terminology that you need to be familiar with before answering these questions. That you have opted to select the subject. So if you have selected the subject, then you answer well. And I am also happy then at the end of the day that there are at least people have learned something from these lectures. Naturally, yeah. Then also we must also encourage private sector. Not only encourage, they need to commit. I think they also have funds by way of social, responsibility. Highlighting the need for increased private sector involvement in climate finance. Corporate social responsibility, they call it CSR. So CSR funds available, and they have set out some funds, major companies in Sri Lanka. Now, what I'm going to say is human civilization is unsustainable. Sorry, that top line is gone out of the window. The invention of the motor car is considered as a big leap in human civilization. We all know that. But now the motor car is going to destroy the planet. As an environmental engineer, I say that is a slogan, but it's very hard to promote. Humans have wiped out 60% of the animals from 1970. Sorry, human annual per person, not my annual carbon footprint is 3.55 tons. Use the calculator. Now I have used a calculator. This is the link to the calculator. To just enter your personal data and your habits and your consumption patterns and everything, then you can find out carbon footprint. Carbon footprint is a term used to show that, to calculate the amount of carbon went into a product. Now say a loaf of bread is produced. What is the carbon footprint? It is calculated from wheat production, from then baking in the oven. Everything has used carbon, fossil fuel and energy. Also, during the crop, also carbon is used by farmers. So all those are calculated and added to find out carbon footprint of a product. Similarly, water footprint also calculated as how much water is gone into a product from its basic elements to final product. Then industrialization, I can call it human civilization is a garbage manufacturing factory. Because 150 years of industrial revolution and advancement of science created a mess in the global environment, producing carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, hydrochlorofluorocarbons, HCFCs, hydrofluorocarbon, HCFCs, and there are two things. Those are affecting ozone in the lower atmosphere. How many of you are familiar with ozone layer depletion? Unsustainable energy sources. Then also wars. On top of that, we fight wars in the name of religion and territorial integrity. Wars also contributing a lot of damage to it is damaging environment. Just to talk about water footprint. The three elements of water footprint. There are three kinds of water that we are dealing with in this world. Blue water is, I think I'll start with green water. Green water is what you capture before it is falls on the ground. You capture rain and say just you use a bucket and capture rain, then it is called green water. It is not polluted, so that is how they call green water. Then blue water is what is runoff on the ground. After rain, the water is flowing to the rivers are flowing to the sea, those are blue water. Gray water is the water that we use and it's simply wastewater. So we use a lot of blue water, but blue water has to be treated before drinking. Gray water has to be recycled before use for any other activity other than drinking. Now, so far, we haven't developed our wastewater treatment to recycle water and drink. These just carbon dioxide and how contribution in percentages. Maybe I mentioned these things in the last lecture as well. Sustainable Development Goals. SDGs were born at United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development in Rio de Janeiro in 2012. Adopted by United Nations in 2015, and we started implementing actions to achieve these goals. Sri Lanka started. The baseline was established in 2016, and continuously we are reporting on the progress of achieving the goals. As a universal call to action, the key goals that the nations of the globe have committed to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that by 2030, all people enjoy peace and prosperity. So now we have already spent 10 years of the time, but we are not on the track of achieving any of these goals. So we have to see what is going to happen beyond 2030. Now we will have an opportunity to find out by 2030 what is the position. What we have achieved. When there is economic crisis, we don't have resources to achieve our goals. So there are 169 targets related to these goals. 17 goals, 169 targets, and how they monitor whether we have achieved targets. That is, there are 244 indicators. How to measure that the targets have been achieved and the goal is accomplished. I hope you will get some idea about goals, targets, and indicators, because in wherever you work in all sectors, energy, water, transport, manufacturing, everywhere there is a goal related to all these sectors. So you must know how the goals are, how the actions that we are going to take to achieve goals by achieving targets, the number of targets under each goal. Once if you achieve these targets and show how they have achieved through indicators, then you can be satisfied that we have the percentage of achievement that will be reported by the end of 2030. So periodically we report to the UN system on achieving these targets. For example, water has 8 targets. So we report on 4 targets already we have reported. In fact, I am working on the first 2 targets, that is water and sanitation. A report to the WHO. So 17 goals committed to achieve by 2030. The first 6 goals are based on rights-based. All these are human rights. And food, ensure food security, health, education, achieve gender equality, water and sanitation. All by 2030, those are the rights-based goals. Then development and growth are governed by the other 6 goals, 5 goals. Sustainable, affordable energy, economic growth, resilient infrastructure, sustainable industrialization, reduce inequalities in terms of economic access to economic goods, reduce inequalities. Then health of the planet, other 5 goals are dedicated to health of the planet. Combat climate change, ocean, conserve life underwater, biodiversity, desertification, peace, justice, inclusiveness, strong industrial institutions. Hope you can read that one. Now, this is something I prepared. I didn't get these things from any book, but what is quality of life? Now, this is a good question. Quality of life means that you build a huge house, do air condition, buy a big vehicle, travel in an air conditioned car, live in air conditioned, and have a boil and drink water, and buy expensive food. Those are the things most of the modern day people think that the quality of life they have achieved. But in fact, if you have to get down from the vehicle and inhale the air in the atmosphere, if atmospheric air is polluted, then you will be susceptible to respiratory health. The quality of air, quality of water, quality of food, and quality of environment are the four aspects for quality of life. So I need not go through everything, you can read it out. Quality of food, of course, just question whether we have quality of food. We have to depend on processed food. Processed foods doesn't mean that they are natural. They have ingredients which are harmful to long-term health. The other main issue is ozone layer depletion. I'm not going to read it out. Just read for your information. There was an emergency action by the global community to stop. We all felt the worst effect of ozone hole before 2000. But now gradually it is building up. For a simple gas, ozone plays a major role in the functioning of the Earth's ecosystem. Ozone protects life on Earth from the sun's ultraviolet radiation, says NASA. Ozone in the stratosphere absorbs most of the ultraviolet radiation from the sun. Now, if we don't have the ozone layer, what happens is ozone breaks down into oxygen when ultraviolet rays travels through the layer. So that is how they protect UV, protect us from UV light. Without ozone, the sun's intense UV radiation would sterilize the Earth's surface. What do you mean by sterilize? That means it will not be habitable. The ozone layer protects life on Earth from the sun's most harmful rays. Now, that is why outlook for ozone layer, the discovery of ozone layer hole in the 1980s promoted successful international cooperation to phase out the use of chlorofluorocarbons. Now, CFCs have been completely eliminated by the global industry. So ozone hole is still there, but it is continuing to shrink as they have observed. So they think it will be 100% will be shrunk by 2050. CO2 emission and limits. A typical petrol car emits 500 grams of carbon dioxide per every kilometer run, or 2.3 kilogram of CO2 per liter of petrol burnt. You can calculate your car carbon footprint by, there is a formula. You go to online and check, but this is the average. So if you travel 100, you are measuring the distance with kilo. Sorry, 2.3 kilograms per liter of petrol means 2.3 kilograms of CO2 per 8 kilometer. So if you travel 100 kilometers, it will come to around 17 kilograms. Sorry, 30 kilometers. Annually, the average person in Sri Lanka produce 1 ton of greenhouse gases. Average. To stop climate change, the maximum amount of CO2 that can be generated by a single person in a year is 600 kilograms. If we reduce, let's say individually contribute, determine, you can have your own contributions by reducing CO2 generated. Men contribute to climate change more than women do. At the same time, women are more affected. That is something I have learned. Burning a single liter of petrol produces 2,300 grams of CO2. On the other hand, diesel emits 2,600 grams of CO2. Hybrid can still have tailpipe emissions. Only fully electric cars will avoid emitting carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and hydrofluorocarbons. So if we use only solar energy to charge the battery of the car, then that car is fully worth in as it is fully green, because you don't use energy from the grid where coal or petrol thermal power is generated. It's no point charging an electric car using thermal power generated by the grid. So it is, to be fully effective, you need to have a solar system to charge the car. Then you are fully independent of fossil fuels. Yes. So that's an important point that you need to remember. How do you become independent of fossil fuels? This is how you contribute global warming by humans. Burning of fossil fuels 49%, agriculture 13%, deforestation 14%, industrial process 24%. Carbon cycle, that is a natural cycle. If you upset this cycle by too much of carbon in the atmosphere, then there will be more water will be pumped to the atmosphere. There will be floods and droughts. That's why this carbon cycle is a natural cycle, but we should not disturb. That will affect hydrological cycle and other cycles which are maintaining health of the planet. Now, if you don't have trees to absorb carbon dioxide, then there is that's why the balance is between how much carbon is called sinks, carbon sinks. Trees are carbon sinks, factories carbon emitters, dead organism also carbon emitters, decay of organism emit CH3, ammonia. So I think this is an interesting thing to learn. Now during undergraduate days, I don't know whether you had a chance to learn these new subjects. But he passed out in 1975 because at that time environment also not a day-to-day term we used in our day-to-day business. Carbon cycle, as I mentioned in the previous slide, carbon cycle is essential to ecosystem as it supports plant growth, regulates climate, and facilitates the exchange of carbon between living organisms, the atmosphere, and the Earth's surface, ensuring ecological balance. So that is why ecological balance is here. because this is how it is balanced. So carbon cycle, we should not disturb. The carbon cycle serves to stabilize the Earth's temperature by managing the quantity of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. If it goes up, temperature will go up. It provides the carbon needed for a plant to make food through photosynthesis, which is necessary for all living things. Now, these trees grow to a huge size. How do they absorb carbon? The tree bark has a lot of, 90% carbon that is absorbed from the atmosphere. Carbon in the soil, there is no carbon, not much, but it absorbs through photosynthesis. Carbon is a key component of life-sustaining substance, such as protein, lipid, and DNA. The carbon, our body is also made up of carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen. When the carbon cycle is interrupted, climate change can occur, impacting the weather, habitat, and biological variety of on Earth. I hope you can, there are a lot of too much to digest, but it's a challenge. That's why to become a chartered engineer, you need to chew a lot and digest a lot. Then you become a fully fledged professional to go to the society, because you can answer questions on any subject. When you become a chartered engineer, that is the certificate that you are given to become an expert to solve problems, even to interfere and settle conflicts, conflict resolution. There are a lot of conflicts. When you go to do work, you always confront with social and environmental issues. To face those I think, with confidence, you need to have the knowledge. Without competencies, you cannot solve issues faced by day-to-day professional conduct. This is how the carbon dioxide emission has risen from. Now it is continuously going up. So that means the danger is not averted. Still the danger is there. Danger means it's a serious question. But if it goes to 450, you don't know, recently Colombo's atmosphere was in orange color. That means critical stage. It was approaching dangerous status. Look at this emission by country. Hope you will agree. This is not my calculation. This is how internationally it is. China, USA are the biggest. Steps to reduce carbon emission. Now you can get credits for reduction of carbon emission. Step 1, company meets or gets close to meeting its emission cap. You have to set. Now there is another expertise you can develop. You can find out what are the caps, limits given to the various industries that they should stop their carbon emission to a certain level and how they progress. That is, step one is to those companies meets or gets close to meeting its emission cap. How soon they are going to do it? Then they get funds. Funds means compensation or credits. Step two, or they have to invest a lot of funds to reduce as well. If they reduce, they get credit. That is how they are compensated. Step two, company invest in a project designed to reduce carbon emissions. Now this say these money is invest to change their technology. If the technology is obsolete, if it is older than 30, 40 years, then it emits a lot of carbon. I can present the best example, Walachene Paper Corporation. Now the previous government boasts about restoration of Walachene. I have visited it. It consumes peak land footprint, 370 acres of land. And it has huge rollers, moving equipment, prime movers. That is the technology they used in the 50s. Now they have restored everything and now they are running. The monthly electricity bill is 10 million. The general manager says, how can I make profit to produce something worthwhile with this kind of energy bill? That was in 2023 November. Okay. So it's not economically viable. That is what you are. That is how you say economically viable, environmentally not sound, not sustainable, and socially not acceptable. What you have to do is you dismantle such industry and go for new technology, which as in how new technology is available to produce paper without any big land footprint, big water footprint, big carbon footprint. Then you have, now see, this diagram shows wind power, solar are used for change of process. Offset programs include renewable energy investment, reforestation programs, capturing gases, etc. Then you get credits. Step 3, company receives carbon offset credits. This is the cyclic process. So it's an iterative process. You can think of improving year by year. You can set your own time frame, milestones to improve carbon footprint. And if you are supporting industry as consultants or engineers who are working in your industry, check what is the carbon, water, land footprint. You have to learn new, you have to have new learning. I also go against motor car. I have a motor car, but anyway, I think motor car, a giant leap in human civilization, but associated pollution is 12.2% of the total. Considering now it's a big amount. This is repeating what I have said before. Yeah. Car tires, how many of you have How many of you have thought about just this? Car tires contribute to atmospheric and water pollution with sulfur and carbon. You change a pair of, say, not pair of tires, 4 tires with thick threads. After running about 50,000, 60,000, you see that those threads are gone. They have all the threads gone. It is, tires get heated up during running and it emits particles which are deposited on roads. Then the rainwater carries those particles to pollute the water bodies, land, with sulfur and carbon. Now, some countries in Australia or developed countries, they have ponds by the side of the highway to arrest that drainage from the highway and settle the sludge. Did you get the point? So asphalt on the highway does the same. Then there are a lot of environmental damage. That's why everything is car related, transport related. The old tires, old batteries, old discarded car bodies, discarded plastic, discarded metal, all that are going to contribute to the damage the environment. This is an important subject, that environmental rights and governance. Now, this is something that we need to keep it in mind. Sustainability is maintaining development and consumption within the Earth's replenishment capacity. If you exceed this capacity, then you are destroying the opportunity of the future generation. In our globalized world, environmental threats require effective responses that promote peace, justice, development, and the fulfillment of environmental and human rights. In our globalized world, peace, justice, development, and the fulfillment of environmental and human rights. Those are the environmental governance rights and governance practices. How do we change our way of? It's in fact partly good governance. It's actually good. If you promote good governance means govern the country to achieve sustainable goals. Now, in the first 1 to 6 goals, if you adhere to the requirement, then you are automatically you become a democratic country. You are respecting the rights. United Nations Environment Program promotes sound environmental governance. The rules, policies, and institutions that shape how human interests interact with the environment. By building robust governance system, we can safeguard the environment and human rights and work towards all 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. Adhere to environment and social safeguards in all developments. The challenge that we face due to the climate change is shown in this map. As I said, water is the first casualty of climate change. Water stress by countries given here. Since we are with a very high density of population, our population density is one of the highest. Only Bangladesh in this region, our population is less than Bangladesh density, sorry. So the globe is divided into 3 zones, polar zones, that is where ice caps are there. Then temperate zone where the Europe, United States, Russia, Northern China, and these countries are called temperate zone. The temperatures are always around 20-25. Tropical zone, we are in the tropical zone. Tropical zone countries are vulnerable to, most of the time, hydrometeorological disasters are increasing in this zone. So water stress then lead to water scarcity. Then it leads the next third stage is, first stage is stress. That means you don't get the amount required in time. Scarcity means that you don't get the amount in time and long wait. You have to wait for a longer period of time. Absolute scarcity means you have to give up certain functions, hygiene functions, and only seek for drinking water. Climate research. Long-term regional or global average of temperature, humidity, and rainfall pattern over season, years, or decades. These are the terms, the indicators used for climate change research. Now consider Norelia is susceptible to climate change. It is expected that by 2050, number of days with 23 degrees temperature or above will rise to 250 days per year. This is how you say that Norelia climate is. Now, you take 50 years and calculate this parameters. Then you can find out. Then climate risk country profile has to be prepared with number of days surpassing 35 degrees centigrade. Now, if we are luckily in Colombo, so far we haven't gone beyond 32 degrees. Last year, it went up to 33. 35 means it will be a real disaster for Colombo people with the humidity. Now see how it is rising. The number of days with 35-degree temperature can go up to 100 days by 2090s on the emission pathway. There are these special RCP8.5 is a mechanism, but I am not going to talk about that. It is climate specialists will study and they are using. Use weather data to carry out climate research, rainfall, humidity, temperature, wind speed, which determine number of sunny days and rainy days. but number of rainy days might increase for us. And also number of sunny days will become hotter in the future. I think I'm not going to read out everything. You can read these things. These are just showing how climate is classified through various regions of the earth. Tropical, no, megathermal climates. We are in this area, this region near the equator. So the other extreme is polar or alpine climates, cold temperature. As I said before, from the two mechanisms that we used are adaptation and mitigation. I hope you are learning these things by reading at least. Then there is a thing called Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It is the United Nations body for assessing the science related to climate change. Now, I think so-called climate experts, I think their knowledge is also, the science is now still at infant state. Climate change science need to be developed into a much more bigger, in-depth knowledge need to be established. So far it is not so high in expertise. So IPCC will establish guidelines for carbon emission. There is a panel, intergovernmental panel. They meet in most probably UNEP or UNEP in Nairobi. Carbon sequestration is the process of capturing and storing atmospheric carbon dioxide. Sequestration. It is one method of reducing the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere to reduce global climate change. Carbon sinks, forest, and other contributions. Each CO2 added takes away one O2 from the atmosphere. You know that? What to expect for Sri Lanka? You must be familiar about on these things. Wet areas become wetter, dry areas expanding, intermediate areas also reducing or expanding, becoming hotter, and agro-economic regions will be affected due to extreme events. Now these red areas, on average basis, they receive about 1,100 to 900 millimeters of rain. The other intermediate area, 1,000 to 2,000. Then wet areas, sometimes in somewhere here, there is a place called, I can't remember the name, it receives in about 5,000 millimeters per year. Colombo receives about 3,500 per year. What to expect? Floods, lands, and droughts. increasing vulnerabilities and vulnerable population. Temperature changes in the regions will affect plantation and natural resources. That's a risk. So this is what climate can this is how we have been performing destruction. Can you imagine? Our population rose from 8 million to 22 million. During that process, forest cover has gone down from 48% to 28%. We are a unique country where we have all the climate zones. It is called Köppen climate classification. Köppen, somebody who has invented this. Common climate classification. Tropical, dry, temperate, continental pole, as I mentioned before. In Sri Lanka, we have monsoon, equatorial, temperate ocean, and tropical savanna. Temperate ocean means coastline. Equatorial is Colombo, Trincomalee, and all those hot temperate. Monsoon, northeast and southwest. Then temperate zone is in the hill country. Morelia is the place we can call temperate zone. Temperate ocean means a different area, that is rise of temperature in the surrounding ocean. Tropical savanna is here somewhere. Sorry, it's in the intermediate zone. Hydrometeorological disasters, how it is classified, how it is listed, and frequency of occurrence. This is globally, but Sri Lanka floods annually, droughts annually, landslide common with intense rainfall more than once in a year. Cyclones not very frequent. Tsunamis only once. Earthquakes only tremors of very small magnitude. I am just referring to the Sri Lanka. Volcanoes prehistoric in Sri Lanka. I think our central hills were formed due to volcanic action. So we have prehistoric volcanoes in Sri Lanka. Tornadoes, no. Glaciers, no. Storms, yes. Sedentary intrusion, yes. Sorry, this is not clear. Challenges to engineers. Building climate resilient infrastructure. Understand local problems. Energy efficient, water efficient, carbon footprint limit, greenhouse gas. Those are the challenges to engineers. Climate risk assessment, risk and opportunity analysis. New techniques. Mitigate side effects, location-specific hazards, identification in feasibility, and build resilience. EIA and IE. You know them. These are important that you need to learn very well. Sustainable development and self-reliance. Self-reliance means that we produce what we want without depending on for everything imports. Minimize resource conservation. Conversion, sorry. Minimize resource conversion, that we should not convert natural resources to undegradable things which are damaging to environment. Use of renewable energy and reduce global warming. 5 pillars of climate resilience are threshold capacity, coping capacity, recovery capacity, adaptive capacity, and transformative capacity. Threshold capacity. We should not let the alarming issues to grow beyond threshold capacity and damage the health of the people, health of the planet. Coping capacity we need to improve by using sustainable development. Then recovery capacity is by restoring the environment, restoring the water bodies, restoring ecosystem. Adaptive capacity is that by reducing greenhouse gas emission and global warming through built environment. Some say adaptive capacity without using energy, much energy, we develop our capacity. Our capacity to develop green economy. Transformative capacity is the same. How we transform our businesses, whether we do have the capacity. You can only learn most of these things from the Center for Engineering and Resilience for Climate Adaptation. It is an international agency. And these are just for your information and further knowledge, acquisition of knowledge. And engineers are challenged with climate resilience, water safety and security. Water safety means quality water. Security means quantity. Are we getting the required quality at required quantity and quality? Now the reservoir developed by this actually during the British period, still functioning without any signs of degradation, because the forest is protected by the water agency and also reservoir. Both are protected by same agency. Therefore, it is sustainable. I think I want to end my lecture with this message, where we have many examples by our ancestors during their Paleolithic civilization era. They built lot of infrastructure with CRWSS, climate resilient infrastructure. Thank you very much for listening to for 2 hours, and it is a real hectic and heavy load of things, but since I am trying to induce this terminology and basis of learning so that pursue your careers with new horizons.
Sir, we haven't received last lecture tube as well.
Tuesday
So the-
lecture.
Yes, this one
I will
also. I
say
think,
today, tonight, or with Mr. Sanjeev, I will do that. We will, huh?
because if it is received near to the exam means it will be difficult to
No,
read.
I will do that tonight, please. Sorry.
Okay, sir.
When is the exam?
30th. 30th of this month.
30th. No, I will do that tonight because I thought both lectures together to send both together, but I didn't realize that it is time is important. Anyway, hope your knowledge about global environment is now gone few steps higher than before. Can you say yes or no?
Yes.
I need loud people.
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want you to become experts because your future is in your hands. You know, how you fight with polluters is going to be it's going to save the country. That is the message I can give you. Then thank you very much. Are there any questions? Do you have any questions?
No, sir.
What does that mean? My teaching is good, no, my teaching is hopeless.
No. Good.
No,
Sir,
I can't put word into your mouth.
No, sir. Good.
Yes, but yeah, you would have heard of many of those things before, but we will focus on the B paper. Then after that, we'll try to develop our expertise. I have donated some books to the library also on these subjects. Now I am retired, so I am not a consultant, but I am working as a national expert on sustainable development. Whenever there is a report to be submitted, I am consultant to do that. Thank you very much and all the best for your professional development and membership. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, sir.
thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.